Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vibe Check by SAWO Labs, episode 4 of this video podcast series. In Vibe Check, we discuss everything tech, communities, and startups. And for today's episode, we have Sumita Jetli from Knorish with us. She's also going to be joined by Sachdeva, who's also the co-founder for Knorish, but Kinar is running late, so he's going to join a little late. So stay tuned with us. I think Kinar will be answering some of our questions. But in the meantime, I want to introduce Sumita. Sumita handles content and artists at SAWO Labs. Sumita, why don't you quickly, introduce yourself to the community, please?
Hi, everybody. This is Sumita. And before I begin, I would like to apologize on behalf of Kinnard. He will be running slightly late, but he will be shortly amongst us. So, I'm a part of the content team over there in Knorish, and we are into creating beautiful digital course businesses, fully automated and sales funnel enabled.
Excellent. So Sumita, today we're discussing, how to monetize communities. Now, clearly, Nourish has, a massive community, and you have artists as well who bring their own communities and create content for them. Can you tell us more about how that works out and how, considering you manage such a wide variety of artists and content, how is that playing out? Do you have like any
Well,
presentation for us or anything?
yeah, I have tried my hand and created something which I would love to share with you guys. So, here it goes.
Awesome. We can see your screen.
Okay, so here it's a short thing I have made only related to the community because when it comes to extensive digital courses and all, we have full-fledged academy and our knowledge resources backing us up. So here this is about the community effort which has gone intensively at the back end. So we started working on our community project a year back, and right now we are in a position where we have two types of communities running. One is for our open community, which people can join who sign up for the trials and other things. And the next one is the paid community, where our tenants who are already onboarded, they are the part of the learning and development programs over there. So basically, when we did work on the community piece, it was a kind of intense subject for us to. We were also at a learning stage at one point. So trust me, it's like a big responsibility when we come up with community because it's not just about selling a product or monetizing. That's not the pure reason, frankly speaking. A lot of value, a lot of impact. That's the thing which drove us. So when we said build, engage, and thrive, so we were very sorted in the back end that when we build an academy, it would have some parameters which will be predefined, and then the engagement level has to be very high quality. So we did a lot help of research based on that, and even the pieces which we created for the content, for the kind of webinars, live events, and all. So they were thoroughly researched and backed by the findings which we had. So our main purpose of creating the community was creating a super valuable resource for our members, for the people who joined, so that they get a feel of like what the learning is about, and they get that fanfare about the whole thing. And yeah, we got to see a lot of engagement going on. It's getting better day by day, and we are also learning. So when we use the word build, engage, that kind of work went into that, is still going into that. Thrive in the sense, it's like when they grow, we grow. So learning is a kind of exchange of communication. Learning is like you do your best and people give you their best. So it's a partnership, which is a beautiful thing about community because everybody is like-minded over there. Everybody has one interest, something is driving them. So if you are at the giving end and they are at the receiving end, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing happening over there. And when something is mutually happening, when people are really getting into that growth scope, so yeah, thriving is very much natural. So they come back to you as a kind of authority. They come back to you to handhold them at some point. And that's really something very amazing about the community. And frankly speaking, if we move to the next slide now, I would love to show you guys something. Cherish, is the second slide visible for me? No.
It's loading at the moment, Samita.
Oh, yeah, it went slow. So the second slide is actually going to talk about like what are the potential, what is the possibility that we can do in our community. So when it comes to possibility in the community, as I told you, being a learning platform, so I won't call it as a monetization purely. I will call it as a learning kind of platform where people are exchanging ideas, getting knowledge, and getting that voice in the whole scenario. So the possibilities of creating this community is like huge. You get to have so many potential sitting over there, like creation and curation is one major, and that tops the list. I wish my presentation was a little quick. So content part is there, and then the engagement is something which is very authentic. So these are the people who have an interest to learn. So genuinely they are sitting there for some purpose. So whatever you say or whatever you talk, it is between the like-minded people being exchanged, and they are valuing
Mhm.
every word of it, and they are adding to it. So content creation
Right.
and curation, so the level goes a little bit up, so the quality and the purpose is similar, and it all sinks in so well. So this kind of relationship which goes into picture is like grand. And then brand also gets that confidence, how many people are genuinely sitting over there interested. So we also can figure out our niches, our target audiences, their interest. We also get to have a lot of feedback coming in, which is like fantastic. Somebody telling you on the face what is to be done, somebody telling you exactly what kind of webinars or learnings they want of you, somebody telling us, and we need this feature upgraded or something, and the instant kind of customer support which becomes available within the community, it's something which we can vouch for. I mean, our paid creators community and all, it's doing very well. So here the thing is like nobody is staying put back. So they have their opportunity to open up, to talk, to bring their learnings on the table, and to gain from the other people's learnings as well. So this is a huge potential actually. It serves a lot of purpose in terms of customer support, in terms of sales and marketing, in terms of having brand authority and recognition, and people get to have the trust factor built on solid grounds, which is like plus point, big bonus for us people. Yeah. And then we also, when we have this community thing going on, the third very important point which we noticed is when we have the community, we have people, a ready audience in the sense learning is happening again. So we have this opportunity of showcasing our features by doing certain events. Like we are into learning and development, we are a knowledge platform. So we quickly jump into, we have this authority on sales funnel, which Kinner is working extensively. And you might have seen our
Yeah.
webinars and every weekly. So we have this full-fledged kind of work going on for the sales funnel. So when we talk of the sale funnel and everything, we implement it on our community as well. So I think Kinner has joined. So that's a good news for me.
Hi guys, so
Excellent.
sorry guys. I This was unavoidable. I apologize, and I'm ready to do three webinars as a follow-on to compensate for what I have done today.
Right.
But brilliant.
Problem.
I requested Sumita to come online and help us with this. I understand that she must have gone through the presentation. So lovely to be here, Cherish. Apologies for today.
Like, no problem, Kira. Understandable. Yes, Sumita actually, handled the session beautifully in your absence. But
Great.
finally glad to have you here. And we've been
Pleasure.
asked. So I'm glad that you're here. We had some questions for you. We wanted to know more about your perspective, on how to build amazing communities, especially in the digital space. especially
Your
when you have a set that's available for everybody. So how are you, like, what's your take on like keeping the community together and also working with them to make sure that this not only stay together but also increase their propensity to be monetized?
Sure. My take on this is I think great communities are built on the backbone of content. So the more the
Uh-huh.
relevance of content is for the community, the better uh, focused it is on distribution to the right kind of audiences and the right niche, the more impact it's going to bring. And this is the toughest one for people to figure out. What I'm trying to say is that let's say you are Netflix, right? And you keep talking about filmmaking content all the time, which Netflix does not. But let's say they were doing that, it won't make sense because filmmaking is key to their success. It's not what their audiences are wanting to hear about. So to understand your persona is step one, and to find that right niche that kind of builds the entire glue between your content's direction is the key. And I think that would be the biggest pillar. There are multiple other factors, like you've got to keep the distribution right, you've got to be super engaging, you've got to have the right kind of response turnaround time, and your relevance of what you want to monetize should be exactly glued in again together with your content niche. So it's like if you are, again, if you're talking about, let's say, how to read well, how to be a book fan, you can't suddenly start selling mobile phones because you're talking to audiences that have built a community on love of books, right? I'm sorry, books in the background, so that's all I could
Right.
think of. But yeah, I mean, communities are built on interests and content pillars. That's the most important one.
Makes sense. That's true. I think, especially when you have reached a point where the community is not just generating user-generated content, but also user-consumed content. I think you've kind of established a very self-sustaining ecosystem. So I agree there. Like a community which generates content and creates content, it's fantastic. Okay, so and I understand that communities and their ecosystem is fairly new to Indian market, right? Not everybody invested in communities before, and in fact, if you look at plays right now, some of them having huge communities are now monetizing. Only existed by the virtue of existing for in the ecosystem for really long, and they just acquired mindlessly, never really thought of it come from a community-led growth. Anything that has changed now? What is your perspective? Do you put community as the pivotal point right now, or is it like still the same? What do you see in the market?
So everything has changed, Cherish. We live in a world that's not recognizable anymore by people who also lived 2 years ago on the same planet. We've gone digital like never before. We've been forced to go digital. Either you go digital or you perish, is the statement now. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons. The other reason is the easy availability of online tools that can help you build and maintain communities. Facebook, I think, has been a tremendous playground for communities. I mean, we know that the power of Facebook communities has been, so crude that it has been able to topple governments in some parts of the world. What else could be spoken about? So I would say that the emergence of these platforms like Facebook, Instagram, the entire digitalization and tools of monetization. Knorish, for an instance, our platform is a tool that lets people monetize content, monetize communities, and our goal is the same. That how do you let people put products, knowledge products, behind a community? Because after you have a community and you want to monetize it, you're going to need things that could be monetized, and those things in Knorish game plan are online courses, your PDF documents, whatever your expertise can help you build. So I would say that all of these factors combined, the playground, the internet, the tools that could help you monetize, even convert your knowledge into a monetizable product, is all that has led to this revolution. And I think it's just the beginning of it. We are going to see things that we are going to almost live in the matrix, as they say, the old movie Matrix, because it's all going digital, right? We'll be part of communities, and we interesting anecdote here. I was talking to somebody on a sales call. Incidentally, my team just got me on the sales call, and when I just asked the guy like that, I love small talk, by the way. I'm not a guy who only wants to talk about business. So I asked the guy, by the way, where do you live? He said, I live in Gurgaon. And then I eventually found out he lives 2 flats under my flat. And we were on the call, right? So, but we are meeting online. That's the answer to your question. That's we're not living in the world anymore. I couldn't walk down and see this guy. I met him in the matrix on the community, so to say.
Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic anecdote. That's kind of sums up the kind of world we live in right now, and what a nice way to explain it too. You're right about Facebook, right? Facebook is not just actually so powerful and creating communities that can potentially topple government, but they've also realized that there's a massive need of community managers who can handle communities and kind of moderate the ecosystem altogether. Um, in fact, Facebook has recently come up with their community manager certifications as well to kind of give this a legitimate, direction all in all. Fair enough. So you spoke about Knorish actually monetizing the content. Tell us why and how you thought of communities coming together, and how did you actually find out their allegiance and also their capacity to pay? What were your methodologies, and what can young community builders learn
I
from
would
that?
say that there were multiple lessons to learn, and let me also highlight that for you, that doesn't matter how much a speaker claims that he knows everything. We all are students, much like you guys, right? I mean, some of us have just figured out a bit of it, and some of us are still figuring the starting bits, but we are still learning a lot. Some of the lessons while we were at it have been content and niche have been the key, how you tie it all up. So it was super tough to find out. If you talk about the community for Knorish, like, we are a platform for people to build their sales funnels and automations for online courses. Like, if you want to build an online course and start selling it, that's what we are. So we had to identify what are the 3 things that my community that I'm going to build is asking. Persona needs to be understood so well. And I remember Sumita and other people in the content team, and everybody was working so hard, I think for almost a week, interviewing people in our community, the existing members. What are your fears? What are your choices? Why do you do this? What are you scared of? What do you like? What are the LinkedIn groups that you're a part of? I mean, it's a huge list. I can show you that persona map. We were just trying to understand if we knew what their lives' biggest questions are, their goals are, and what are the common threads that we can, kind of take through the community target audience, then we'll be able to build better content. So I think that was one of the biggest learnings, that I think to understand your audience like anything is the super key. And let me give you a good hack there that I learned from some experts in the US. So one of the interesting bits is that you've got to, so let's say you have an interest in building communities for book readers, like I mentioned. If you are able to snoop in and eavesdrop on conversations on the internet, like people who are buying books from Amazon, what are the complaints they are making? What are the appreciations they are showering on Amazon? And start making notes of those. There are multiple places like Quora where people are asking questions about your interest-based area in communities. And once you build that list, you will be able to plug holes. You will exactly find out that, after every third, fourth comment, here is somebody who's saying, I don't have a good digital reader to read. So you will know what content to talk about, because now you understand. It's like, that old auntie going to these kitty parties, listening to every other lady in the building, and then trying to feed that exact same information. Like, I can help you get that match for your daughter, or I can get you that buy who will come to your place and clean it well. That's the key. You've got to understand and
That's
build
true.
content in those domains.
I
Yeah, so that's
swear,
been the
Indian
biggest lesson.
matchmaking aunties were the OG community builders long before this exists, Reem, I believe. You're right.
Absolutely, absolutely,
You're right about that.
absolutely.
So I want to
And let
ask
me tell
Sumita
you,
also that
they'll go online.
Sumita,
They'll go online.
you've building a community which is so diverse, right? True. So since Sumita, you're building a community which is so diverse, every artist has their own expertise and their own audience and their own niche. Clearly, everybody has their own persona also. And as Skinner said, you could eavesdrop and find different learnings. So how do you like a common thread against each, or is it like a different parallel thread altogether?
Well, it's like it depends on the kind of relevance of the thread. If it is worth it, we go and diversify. But if it is to continue and if it makes sense, because it's not a good practice to go on building threads and threads. So we evaluate in the back end and then work accordingly.
No, I think that's super important because what Sumita is saying, to put more context on it, I think it's very important that you don't go too broad, you keep going
Yeah.
deep. If you go too
Right.
broad, you'll have a risk of alienating your communities. And let me tell you, to answer your question in a particular way, even the most diverse artists or people from very different backgrounds could all have same ambitions and aspirations when it comes to certain type of communities. Like if somebody, let's say I was building a community for people how to how to monetize communities. Let's say that's our topic, a community on how to monetize communities. Now everybody there has one thread, doesn't matter where they come from. The thread is the ability to monetize. So whether they're an artist or a dancer or whosoever, their look out there, and that's where you'll have to eavesdrop, and your answer would be there. They're all asking for the same things. In a building, when you interview 15 aunties, there probably 90% of them are looking for Kamwali Bais to solve that problem. That's how you will find that the common thread. And there is one. There is one for every type of community.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there is a lag at your end, Cherish. Sumita, can you hear me?
I can hear you just perfect.
I
Yes.
think Cherish, it's your internet, man. It's playing
Cherish.
up. Can you hear us?
Sorry, I think you got yeah, I can see you now. Sorry, I think like something got stuck.
No, it's your internet. Me and Sumita could talk live, but you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
you were frozen. You were frozen.
Okay. Uh, Excellent. So, if you can hear me still, I want to understand
Yeah,
from
yeah.
your you recently picked up, if you recently picked up another round of funding, right? Now, since you have like a content based a business, and which can be further monetized. What were the shared KPIs that you guys discussed with your investors, and to whatever capacity you can share? That tells you how do you manage community, how much do you acquire, how do you understand their persona and make sure that they scale year on year. What was that conversation like?
No, so we let me be honest. I didn't know investor, and I've probably done a few hundred pitches. Nobody has ever spoken to me about community, and I'm being very honest. I haven't fielded a single question on that. In fact, I bring that up that we also have something like this, but it never goes beyond that. I don't get follow-on questions. This is the most candid answer that I can give you. Nobody has looked at it as a power, and I don't know what that says, but I try and show people our academy, our blog. We do a lot of content production. We share a lot of content online. So we've been kind of sharing that with the investors all the time, but we've not had too much of a deep dive by any of those guys, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's understandable. Okay, so I think some few last questions. If you have like a young entrepreneur who's trying to uh, build a system or build a company which is generated and based upon users as in general, acquiring them, retaining them, and also make sure that these guys interact with each other, a community with like-minded people. What are the top three tips that you would give them, or
So this
maybe
is a very
five? I
interesting
mean, up to you.
question. Yeah, sure. I was in a conversation with Sonal Holland, who's one of the content creators on our platform. She's one of the top wine experts in the country. So she runs an academy called Sonal Holland Wine Academy, and this is exactly the conversation we had with her. So one thing, I mean, I'll run the steps that I discussed with her. And these are going to be the ideas that anybody should capture. And this is important context. Why I named Sonal is because you'll understand why these tips. So the first tip, of course, is that Sonal understands a persona really well. She'll have to make a list of things that her persona is talking about online, and she knows that really well. She knows that, what are the questions a 23-year-old who's going to be the drink, in the age group when they can start drinking, is asking about wine, or how do you pair up wine with cheese, how do you throw wine party. She's lived it, right? So the more you hear about your audiences, you build a list. And then out of those lists, you've got to build the format maps. The second step is build the format maps that you can best distribute content in. Are you good in front of the camera? Are you comfortable? Are you confident? Or do you like to write? Do you like to blog? Do you like to just do ebooks or something? So finalize what is going to be the format. You can't have one, you'll have to have multiple, because your community will have to be engaged. Yeah. Third, you'll have to build find somebody who's going to lead the community. As a founder, you can't, so moderation becomes extremely important. And I think in this third step itself, you'll also have to club a great tool with the moderator. There are tools like ConvoSite, which are a friend of mine kind of is the founder, and great companies like that, great tools out there that you'll have to find out which brings all the conversations in one pot, and you'll be able to kind of manage that. The fourth person will have to be somebody who's looking at the calendar, because if you don't engage with the community on a regular basis, it's not going to be super effective. So you'll have to figure that out and build a calendar, and build it at least for your first month. So I have actually demarketed the guy who's the community manager, because he's probably the project manager. The calendar manager is somebody who gets the sense of making sure you shoot that video, making sure you write that content and posts it. So people can wear multiple hats, but eventually if you want to build a great community and a large play, you'll have to bifurcate these. So these are the top four. The fifth one is stick to your deadlines, constantly post and engage, and live events could be a great way to just come live and interact with people also, and give freebies. Brian Tracy, for an example, is a great example there. If you look at the community Brian Tracy has built, and there are a few million people, he's written over 40 books or something. For months, you'll keep getting free content for him. Brilliant articles, 50-page ebooks, excellently done. And then suddenly once in 3 months, there'll be an email. I have this online course. Would you like to buy? He's given you so much. You feel indebted. You feel, yeah, I've got to buy from this guy. He's given me so much for free. So the consistency, on content, which is a very tough one. I mean, we struggle with it with we have a 25, 30 people team. We struggle with it. But I would say that I think once you crack that, that's the key. Those are the 5 pillars.
Fantastic. That was so powerful. I almost started taking notes. That was so good. Thanks, Gunnar.
No,
I think we have some questions in the live chat. We're going to put them up on the screen, and you can answer them as well. Yeah. Prathamesh is from our community itself. He asked, so finding a niche to form a community in the first place is important, right?
Great name, by the way, Prathamesh. This is the first time I'm hearing this name. So good, Prathamesh. Yes, finding a niche is the Pratham step. You've got to first find the niche, and then you've got to build the community. Because if you don't do that, you can't build a great community. Because, I mean, everything about your community is around that content niche. So if you are bookworms, you can't think of building a community till you figured out that you are bookworms and this is what the niche is going to be. And if you do that later, it will be super tough for you to join your product with the niche. So first think, what is it that you love? And here I have another suggestion. I'm sorry, I always give long answers, longish kind of than required. But the key here, don't choose the niche based on, there is a scope to sell, or this is a potential sellable domain. Choose it based on what is the domain that you can spend hours and hours talking about or reading about, or just spreading information about. So if it is like for Sonal, it's wine, right? I mean, for some people, I'm giving example, it could be books. For some people, it could be food. So you can't choose a niche based on this is hot, this sells. Choose it always based on this is great. Because at the end of the day, you might make 30% less money than you would eventually make in that hot niche, but you'll be a much happier person and you will do justice to the community. They'll be your die-hard fans. So choose the niche first.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In fact, like if you're choosing a niche which is based on your self-aware interest, it becomes a long-term game. You're not just like looking at from a monetary perspective, but you're also looking at from a learning perspective, which feeds
Absolutely.
into your all-in-all general growth. Yeah,
True, man.
fantastic. Any more questions? That
Yes, absolutely. You could do them side by side, Tanay. Build a community, then launch your product is not that
go and
important. You
launch a
could be
product,
building
or
them.
should you vice versa?
Yeah, sorry, I just started answering. You were stuck on video, charming. So I'll just quickly address this. Now, what you could do, Tanay, is that build a community and at the same time launch your product is also good. So you don't need to wait. However, I see both. Like Sonal Holland Wine Academy is already selling courses. Now she's thinking of also building a community, and there's nothing wrong about the other way also. However, before both of these is the niche, because if you've chosen that wrong, you can't connect these three ever. So I would say that this doesn't matter, that the question that you're answering, but choosing the niche comes before both of them.
Hmm. Fair enough. That's okay. Ronak asks some examples of how I can give value to my community members to make it more wholesome.
I would say that if you found the right domain where you're passionate about sharing information, you will keep on sharing stuff that you feel is going to be useful for their lives to get better. And the exercise that I mentioned about persona, what are the questions they're asking, is your cue to give value. So let's say their questions are about, I don't find great books to read. Like I don't know the names of brilliant books in business that I should read. That's your answer. That's what you've got to share with them. Share book lists. So, because they're looking to find books in the domain of what are the topics that they should read about, who are the great authors, share that. So, eavesdropping onto the conversations will give you exact list of things that you will give value with, and those, just answer those questions is your formula. Format doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with, but just answer and keep answering. Let them keep asking questions. The best part about a community, it's ever growing, because they will ask questions that will prompt your brain more to think about. So, they'll keep asking, you keep answering, and that's how you give value.
Fantastic. Excellent. I think that was all. Uh, no more. Fantastic. Kinner and Samita, I can't thank you enough. That was very powerful, and I think this is beautiful insight from both of you. I want to take this a time, actually to thank you and kind of absorb everything you've said.
Pleasure. I'm ready to be
Yes,
here for another hour
in
if you've
our
got
last
questions.
session we had Ninad, right? And Ninad mentioned how when Knorish is trending, he spoke really highly. True, true. And
No,
we spoke about the great place that you're heading towards, and we also like we're all kind of invested in your growth. So I think maybe after a few weeks or months, maybe we should do this again and have another round of insight. How you the things that you've learned and done.
absolutely. Anytime, man. Thank you so much. Ninad himself is a great guy. Like, he's been a mentor to us. He's been a key mentor and an advisor. His wisdom's kind of so deep. So we're lucky to have people like him on board. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. You guys are doing a great job, and anytime you can call us to share knowledge here. Our business is knowledge sharing, and that's what we promote. So anytime. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you, Cherish.
Thank you so much. Perfect.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Cherish.
Thanks,
Oh,
guys. Yeah, thanks, Nanda. Thanks, Kinara. Thanks, Sumita. Thank you.